Major, massive, huge, unbelievably awesome week for Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels basketball program. Why? What happened? I'll tell you right here. It's the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and, in fact, available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Give us a subscription. My name is Stephen Willis. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and let's get right to it. Huge week for Chris Beard this week as he took in 2 commitments to add to a Brandon Murray commitment that has already happened. What you are seeing is the core being developed by Chris Beard and this Ole Miss basketball program. Currently, with the new transfers brought in, and then you take in TJ Caldwell, Jaemyn Brakefield, and Matthew Murrell, that's 6 players. That comes to about 56 points a game they averaged last season, where there were whatever's going on. I know it's not an apples-to-apples type thing, but whenever you're dealing with a program that has trouble scoring the way that Ole Miss does, like, let me just read this out to you. This is even when stuff was going well. 55 against Oklahoma, 57 against Memphis, 61 against Valparaiso, 63 against Temple, 65 against UNA, 59 against Tennessee, 62 against Alabama, 54 against Mississippi State, 58 against Georgia, 58 against South Carolina. You can see why it's scoring the basketball is going to be important for this team. So with the advent of players like Brandon Murray, like even Austin Nunez, Jamarion Sharp, you can see where Ole Miss is taking a step forward. Now, when you look at Jamarion Sharp, he's the one that just committed yesterday. He put it out there. He averaged 7.5 points a game, nearly 8 rebounds a game, and had 4 block shots per game leading the nation. Absolute rim protector. I've seen him everywhere from ESPN list him at 7'5". We're talking tall. The shortest I've seen him on there, I think on the internet, is like 7'2". So we have somebody that is an athletically gifted guy for somebody that height, and he has a chance to do some very real things. Now, I believe Chris Beard's defense, he's known for kind of like packing it in and forcing you to take jump shots. He doesn't want to give up layups. He doesn't want you to drive, stuff like that. So a rim protector like Jamarion Sharp, who come in, would be quite impressive indeed. He's a good player. He played for Rick Stansbury at Western Kentucky. Stansbury, I think, is going to Memphis as an assistant coach. But it just doesn't stop there. He visited this week. 2 of the official visitors, whenever we had the big visit week, ended up committing. We're still waiting on Tyler Perry, even though there's crystal balls for Kansas State. And Hughley committed to Oklahoma. Now, if you look at other players that Ole Miss have brought in over the last week, you have Austin Nunez, who some have called him a walking bucket. A really good scorer of the basketball. He has a nice shot. He's really good from outside the arc. He has a chance to really make a run at things, especially since he's a little bit of a true point guard at the moment. And so you have some tall guys. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then if you go back a couple of weeks ago, Brandon Murray committed from Georgetown. Good player. He just really is. He averaged nearly 14 points a game. Decent outside the arc, fairly athletic guy. He will be a weapon for this team moving forward. Now, I say that to say this, all of this, with the advent of Jaemyn Brakefield coming back to this team. Matthew Murrell, I think he hasn't officially came back yet, but it looks like he's going to come back. TJ Caldwell, who's a 6'4" type combo guard. And like I said, Chris Beard has a type. He wants you to be a certain length. He wants you to play a certain way. He has a type. And TJ Caldwell fits that. Jaemyn Brakefield fits that. Matthew Murrell fits that. The players that came back and will be the core of this team, it's important to realize exactly what they bring to the table. Now, they're not done. And we'll see exactly how this looks moving forward and who they bring in. Like I said, we'll wait on Tyler Perry. I think Tuesday he is supposed to commit. It looks like Kansas State, but I mean, when it comes to surprise things out of the transfer portal, somebody always seemingly reports one and ends up something else, and they go, oh, NIL, and, you know, it's crazy. But this basketball team has the chance to be at least solid. Like I said, those 6 players averaged 56 points a game last year. Ole Miss, as a general basketball team, had trouble scoring that much. So we've already upgraded the thing we needed to upgrade, which is scoring. You have guys that are going to have a good foundation of playing defense. And, you know, I talk to Tim Thomas all the time and everything, and he talked all last season about how weightlifting during the season potentially was problematic. We'll be able to see exactly what Chris Beard does and how he handles it and what goes on. But if Matthew Murrell's shooting goes up just a tick, if it goes up to his 2021 levels, you're talking about a player that's averaging 16, 17 points a game, supremely athletic. I think you're going to see Chris Beard bring out the aggressiveness in him. Whatever has not been brought out will be there. And you've got all these players on Ole Miss's roster between 6'2" and 6'8" that's just going to be interchangeable and almost positionless. And that's going to be important because you do have that rim protector in Jamarion Sharp. So it's a very good week for Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels. There's no way to get around that. We'll see exactly who they bring in now, what's going on, and what their plan is for this basketball program. But some good players coming in right now. I do want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious snack, but you do not want all the sugar and calories, then you need the best tasting protein bar ever, Built. You've got to try this. And if you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste, I've got just the thing for you. Built Bar and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and tasty and taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing that you won't even think they're good for you. You have to try this. What makes them so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real dark chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. I'm not sure how they do it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. What's even better is that they are healthy, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now, you don't need to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com and using promo code LOCKEDON15. And now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club, while you can still get specialty flavors at Built.com. That's right, head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Really good stuff. If you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, Brownie Batter Puff and Churro Puff. You will thank me later. Seriously, you got that. You've got the Built.com stuff. Maybe use the promo code LOCKEDON15. I don't know if it still works, but it's worth a shot, right? But this candy bar and everything that's involved, I mean, good stuff. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Every dayers. Tomorrow on this show, we'll have John Garcia. And we'll talk a little bit more about Damon Williams. We'll talk about Franklin, Waller. We'll talk even a little bit about, you know, what's going on in the off season and how to handle that as well as camp season rapidly approaches. So, should be a lot of fun. Tune in for that. Now, it is May, okay? And not many people are going to talk about this until it absolutely happens because honestly, they don't care. And I understand that. You have to be an actual fan to care about something like this. You have to actually care about what you're caring about to care about this. But the spring meetings for the SEC is about to happen. I think it's right after Hoover is when it hits. So it's probably, 3 weeks away, something like that, 4 weeks away. I'm not exactly sure. But after this meeting, it's all but guaranteed that we will learn about the new scheduling plan for the Southeastern Conference. They'll have their votes. They'll lock it in. They'll brag about it. They'll do whatever they need to do that. And the rumor, if it comes true, the 3 permanent opponents for Ole Miss football will be Mississippi State, which it should be, LSU, which it should be, and Arkansas, honestly, which it should be. But the problem has become, that over the years, certain teams have separated in rivalry thing. And Ole Miss has more than 3. So one team has to be, taking a step back at the moment. And for Ole Miss, it's probably Vanderbilt. Now, everybody's saying, well, why Arkansas and not Vanderbilt? And the honest thing is, on the schedule right now, every year, Auburn is a permanent opponent is going to be Alabama and Georgia. So you almost need a Vanderbilt on the schedule for that. Now, it's no cakewalk. I think Vanderbilt has a winning record all time against the Auburn Tigers. But it could possibly end up there just to alleviate the strength of schedule of what they're looking like, what they think is going to be every year. Remember, in college football, people just take a data point and stretch that out into infinity. So if you're good right now, you're always going to be good. If you're bad right now, you're always going to be bad. And we both know that's not the case. Ole Miss has been an ultimate yo-yo team over the last 20 years. And Ole Miss is trying to break out of that, but that straight line data point doesn't really go with that. So the 3 permanents, Mississippi State, that's an absolute must. I know Ole Miss fans that like to claim that LSU's the rival and all the stuff like that. No, LSU game's important, but do not mistake who the rival is. Be real about it. Be respectful. I'm of course team don't talk trash, and kind of whenever you say LSU is the rival, that's talking trash in and of itself. So Mississippi State, don't underestimate the importance of that game. That is the game that must happen. If there was only one team that became an every year permanent rival, Mississippi State would be that team for Ole Miss. That is what I'm saying there. LSU, if they go to 3, the 2 comfortably in will be the LSU Tigers. So State and LSU absolutely will be where they need to be. Arkansas, I don't care what anybody says. Now that Texas is going to come in, that's going to change a little bit. But the biggest SEC rival that Arkansas has is the Ole Miss Rebels, period. This is a series that goes back to the 50s and 60s. Johnny Vaught used to play Arkansas nearly every year. Johnny Vaught and Frank Broyles had a thing going. They quit playing because of something happening in the Sugar Bowl, and they didn't play for 13 years. And then they picked that series up again, and they've played every year since like 1981, somewhere in there. So this is a game that absolutely needs to continue, honestly, on a yearly basis. It's one of the wildest, craziest games in the Southeastern Conference yearly. Last year, Ole Miss got boat raced. I'm not saying Ole Miss didn't get boat raced in the game. It was when all the Auburn stuff was happening, and it just wasn't them. They still had over 200-yard rushers in that game, and they lost by like 17 points. It is absolutely bizarre. If you look in the last 10 years, there's multiple games where the game was both teams scored over 50 points, and both coaches were different at both times. There's 4 new coaches. Arkansas and Ole Miss each have new coaches. Over 50 points scored. This is a wild, weird game, and it was going nowhere. I guess if we sat down and thought about it, we would know that it was going nowhere. But the sadness will be the fact that Ole Miss is going to lose Vanderbilt as an every-year opponent. And I'm not talking about all the jokes about what Vandy is as a football program or anything like that. I'm talking about the fact that they've played nearly 100 times. It's a game. It's taking a game off of Vandy's schedule that they always circle and think they can win. Not they're going to win, they think they can win. And they always play above their heads, and it's a weird game. And, I mean, sure, Ole Miss fans, there's been many seasons when Ole Miss thought they were going to do something, go somewhere, that they end up playing Vandy and end up losing the game. But it still is weird that game is going to go away, because literally my whole life, Ole Miss has played Vanderbilt. And I think that goes back even further than that. And it'll be just a weird situation with them being gone. Now, Alabama and Auburn, they just don't hit rivalry standard for me. And this, like I said, I'm not talking trash. It's just fan base feeling. Alabama and Auburn doesn't hit. Texas A&M does not hit. They used COVID as an excuse to cancel the game in 2020. That game is, of course, not going to hit. Now, the benefit, one of the things that the schedule change is going to do, where if you're looking for a positive, Tennessee will become an every other year opponent. Since like 1998, Ole Miss has played Texas Tech more than they've played Tennessee. An absolutely weird stat. But they used to play Georgia and Tennessee every year. That was a consistent, permanent rival between two schools that just played a lot. Now, at least on an every other year schedule, it's going to come back every other year. You know, Ole Miss and Georgia, technically it's going to be at least every other year starting now, because Ole Miss plays Georgia this year. And it'll be really interesting to what happens. Like South Carolina, that doesn't do much for me. Missouri doesn't do much for me. Florida, it will be cool to have Florida back on the schedule on a routine basis. Actually, for the first time, we'll have Florida on the schedule for their routine basis, because I think they've only played like 25 times in their history. But if you look at across the SEC East, you know, Vandy, Kentucky, it'd be nice to have them popping on the schedule more frequently. South Carolina, I guess, like I said, I have nothing really for them. But the main three that I would like to happen, the three that would make me excited, will be Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. I am going to look forward to that. And it'll be nice to play Texas A&M less to pick up those programs. It'll be nice, because the way it's set up is every team will play every SEC opponent every other year. So you get all 16 in a 2-year period. You play a home game against each of them at least once every 4 years, not counting permanent opponents. So if you go to the university, if you're a football player at Ole Miss, you will go to every stadium in the conference at least one time before you graduate. That is a pretty cool deal. Anyway, big moment coming up after the break. We got Demond Williams, the 2024 quarterback commit out of Arizona. He talked about why he picked Ole Miss. He talked about his plans to go to Oxford the next time, when his official visit is being set up. Heck, even what he runs in the 100 meters in track. We talked about all of that stuff, so stick around for that. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for updates, and of course, comment and upvote the video itself. We'd appreciate it very much. I'm here with Demond Williams Jr., the Ole Miss quarterback commit for the 2024 class. How you doing, Demond?
Yes, sir. Not much. Just got out of track practice and just got home. Relax.
Yeah, and I know everybody's excited. We've all watched your huddle video and exactly what you've done. I think you won 2 games last year against Dylan Raiola, the 5-star. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, what made you decide to pick Ole Miss?
The times I've been out there, I mean, I just had a great time, and I felt like that was the place I should be, and the offense, like, fit in my skill set schematically. and just being able to showcase my skill set to the max opportunity.
Now, whenever somebody looks at your profile and sees your size, they're automatically going to try and make a connection between you and somebody like Bryce Young. What exactly
Right.
does your game look like?
I would compare it to Bryce Young myself. I watch a lot of his film, Kyler of course too, but I feel like if there's like a perfect comparison for me, I feel like there'd be like a Bryce Young with just like a tad bit more like athleticism, a little more like speed and stuff like that.
All right, you also run a little bit of track as well. What events do you do? What is your time?
I ran the 1, 2, and 4x1. This year, my PR for the 1 is the 11-1 flat, and the 200 is the 22-3.
All right, that's moving pretty good, man.
Yes,
That's
sir.
not bad. So, All-Star games at the end of the year. Have you been invited to any All-Star games? What are your plans?
I haven't been invited to the Adidas or the Under Armour one yet, but I've been invited to the U.S. Army one. I don't plan on committing to any certain one just yet because the main goal is getting on campus, and whenever I sign and hopefully we're in a big bowl game, we'll be able to get on campus early.
Okay, that's outstanding. What is your camp plans? What camps are you looking at for the summer?
Right. Really just the Elite 11, and that's pretty much it. Just a lot of just training and then hopefully getting back out to Oxford at any point that I'm free.
Yeah, I haven't been to Oxford in several years, and I used to work in the Manning Center. How's the construction going from the last time you went?
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, the time I was there for the Auburn game, there was like nothing there. And then when I was just there like last month or so, it was up and running almost. It was right there.
All right, so let's transition a little bit because the quarterback of the recruiting class kind of becomes a primary recruiter for the recruiting class. Which players are you working on?
Definitely Caleb Odom, Anthony Carey, J.J. Harrell, just a lot of the local guys too. Like Jamonte and all these other guys. Just try to build the best class that we can and be able to mesh good when we all get down here.
Yeah, everybody should be really excited about what's going on. And like I said, we've seen your huddle film and all of that. Tell everybody what Arizona high school football is kind of like that might not be familiar, because we know Mississippi, we're all invested in that. What is Arizona high school football like?
I would say it's extremely competitive. I mean, like a lot of people when they see Arizona football, they just say this. It's like weak or soft, or it's not as good as Texas and Cali and all these other places. But I mean, if you put it into perspective, in the 24 class, there's 2 kids from Arizona that's in the top 10, and I played both of them. So it's like, I mean, the competition is obviously there. It's just being in Arizona, it's hard to just like reach out to the people like in the South because they wouldn't really understand for the most part.
Yeah, and we're trying to, like, we're doing a crash course on Arizona football because of you. Do they have a weird state championship thing where, like, inter classification, does it work? Is it kind of weird?
Yeah, so in Arizona we have 1 through 6A, and then those best teams, they have the best teams out of 4A, 5A, and 6A. They go to what they call the Open Championships, which is the best 8 teams in the state, and that's who you go play. And then if you don't make it to that, then the next 8 teams in each conference will have their own playoff.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know of any games that might be on national TV for you this year?
This year, I'm not sure. I know we were trying to figure out something with like some of the in-state schools that we obviously play with, like Hamilton and Chandler, like the big name schools, and then Saguaro possibly would be a possibility, like that rematch of the state championship game. But I don't think anything's finalized yet.
Yeah, Tuesday night, believe it or not, I was sitting here talking with the guy on my channel about Caleb Odom. What type of game and how did you guys cross? Because, I mean, he's a Georgia guy, so that's like opposite end of the country. How did y'all hook up?
But I don't even remember. I feel like we just followed each other on Instagram one time, and then I was just telling him like this is a place to be, and then we ended up crossing paths. I think last time I was in Ole Miss, and then this past time, like just now, we were there together.
Have you done like a regional Elite 11? Have they started that yet in Arizona?
No, I haven't yet. The one in LA, I was out in Oxford for, so I'll be back in Oxford for the Elite 11, the one that's there.
Oh, okay. So you're going to do the Oxford Elite 11. Do you?
Yeah.
How are you preparing for that? Because that is a weird camp and almost like a combine type situation. How does a quarterback prepare for an Elite 11 type situation?
I would say probably just quarterback training. I mean, I've been working with the same guy since I was in about the 5th grade. Shout out Coach Gio. I mean, he's just always there for me. And every time I'm out there, there's always a big name kid. Like I work out with Spencer Rattler and all these other dudes that come out there. And so, like when you get into a big environment like that, when you throw against these dudes, like these high caliber dudes, every weekend, I mean, like when you go out to those events, there's nothing like that you haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing for people that might not be familiar about Arizona football. Like Spencer Rattler's from there. I think Florida has a quarterback from Arizona.
Yeah, Jack. He went to Chaparral.
Yes, and there's almost an assembly line. But the reason I asked this is because whenever you were younger coming up, apparently you transferred to Basha. If I mispronounced that, I apologize. But that's not exactly known for before you got there as a football power. It's transitioned lately, but what made you pick that school?
I felt like being in the 8th grade, I felt like I was a pretty high caliber youth kid, and I felt like anywhere that I went, I'd be able to excel in my position. But I felt like being able to have the opportunity to come in and just compete early was a lot of people don't know. I started varsity my freshman year, so I've been starting varsity since my freshman year, and it just it's helped me tremendously. Like every year, just being able to add another year underneath your belt. Like I always said, the next year just make it better than the year you just had, and you just be just fine.
All right, so the next time you're going to be in Oxford is for the Elite 11. Are you planning on coming back out for a game as well?
Yes, I'll be out for. I think I'm trying to set up an OV for the LSU game.
Okay. And is there anything that Coach Kiffin or Coach Weiss is specifically telling you that you think might be of interest to random Joe fan like me?
Not necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
we always have good conversations, and we always, you know what I mean.
All right, man. I appreciate it very much. And everybody, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast their first listening every day. Every dayers tomorrow on the show, we'll have John Garcia talking recruiting. We'll probably talk a little bit about this conversation as well. But anyway, thank you very much, Demond, and we will hopefully have some good times together in Oxford, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care, man.
All right, thank you.